In a series of floodplains, and we are going to be talking all about floodplain zoning and the different zones you want to watch out for when you are a home buyer or even a homeowner if you didn't check this prior to purchasing. Some information you're going to want to look out for when you get some background research on your house. Now you can obtain this from a local realtor, and I'm also going to show you where you can find this on your own. Welcome to the series. In the first series, we talked a little bit about floodplains and floodways. I am a licensed realtor in Arizona, so we're discussing Arizona. I'm based in Tucson, so we're discussing Southern Arizona, but this applies to many deserts in many parts of the world. It's just something we often don't think about as a homeowner, that there was all this natural functioning of the land and the water and the seas and everything prior to all our construction and building and living there that's still going on. And it's going on in and around our homes. And it's important to be aware of this. So we talked a little bit last week about how natural deserts have a certain drainage and how we have a type of caliche in the earth that takes a minute for the rainwater to absorb when it rains, and how there's kind of a drainage system that happens for a few hours after a rain for all the water to find its ways to the big rivers and flow throughs we have here. And is your home or land in one of those natural drainage areas that's been going on for a really long time? Most likely before your land was even developed. And this is something really important to find out before you buy, obviously, but if you currently own, you can find this out too. Only some of these are going to require flood insurance. So just because you're not paying flood insurance doesn't mean you may not be in a natural, flooding or drainage area. So let's jump into it. I want to share some of the good information I have. I'm going to share my screen with you so we can get going on this now. One of the first things I'm going to pull up here is I want to show you guys a little bit about some basic definitions, which is what video 2 is about. Now in video 3, I want you to stay tuned. We are going to have an expert in floodplains who's actually a licensed insurance agent here in the area, and she's someone who will scour these FEMA flood maps, and she understands the designations really well, and she can help you figure out if you're going to need flood insurance for your property and maybe ways to remove the need for flood insurance from your property if you're in one of these flood zones. She's going to talk to us more about that in series 3, so stay tuned for that. I'm going to be sending out a special invite for that, but this is just going to be a quicker series of number 2 where we talk a little bit about these zones. Now what you're going to want to do is I want to pull up first what is called the digital flood map. It's DFIRM, but it's the digital flood insurance rate map, and these are pretty cool. It's FEMA. So, and these change over time, right? You could be living somewhere, you may have experienced this, and it wasn't a flood area when you bought it. And just the way the drainage is happening with the rains over time, the way the land's been developed, or if levees have been put in, or just the way the natural land is moving the water around, you could be kind of grandfathered into a floodplain that wasn't there before, and now all of a sudden you need flood insurance, and you're like, what just happened? I don't know. So I'm going to have a link to this in the comments, and you can apply this anywhere in the country. This next part, this link will be through the Arizona site, but this map is national. It's the FEMA maps, and it's their digital floodplain map. So we're going to pull up we're going to pull up a location just here in Tucson. And I'm going to be able to show you how you can navigate around on this map. It's pretty cool. So here we are. This is near my office location here in Tucson that we pulled up. And as you can see, all the different color coding is a different rate area for insurance, but it's not just about money. And this is just one little section of town, but it tells you risk. And that's what we're talking about today, the different codes, right? And I am by no means a flood expert. That's why we're actually having a special guest on next week who works with us all the time, an insurance provider here in town. And she will be able to get a lot more in depth on some of the details of this and your insurance. But I want to just give you a highlight, and I'm going to have a link to these definitions as well, so you guys can have a little sense. We're going to switch over to this. Now, there's kind of more high risk areas, and this is what you're going to want to look for on the information about your property that you'll get during a purchase. And it may or may not be pointed out or discussed with you, depending on who you're working with. But it should be in all the materials you get. So I want you to know what to look for, right? These high risk areas tend to be like zone A, zone AE, A through H, A through O, A through R. The top of the alphabet is the most severe, right? And then the lower part of the alphabet, the X tends to be the least severe. Now you can see from some of these definitions, like zone A is an area with 1% annual chance of flooding. And that means over 30 years, there's a 26% chance of flooding of the zone A on your property. Now, that doesn't mean a 26% chance your house will flood. That just means, and that's where you want to look at these maps. And it's helpful if you can have access to the digital map. But you want to look at where the flood zone is on your property. So let's say you're zoning in, and this is a commercial space, but let's say this right here is your, office space that you just purchased for your new business, right? Now, you can see that this zone that we're talking about right here, it's only on the edge of your property. So it's basically in this part of the parking lot and maybe, the first few feet of like this corner of the building, right? And in this case, it has a 0.2% chance of annual flooding, zone X. Now, zone X isn't anything we have to worry about too much, and we'll go into a little more what that is. But just because your property says it's in a particular flood area, your parcel that you're purchasing with a house on it, it doesn't mean it's covering your whole house. But like here, as you can see in these residential homes, this flood area pretty much does run right through where their home is built. But that's not necessarily meaning your home's going to get completely flooded. It's important to look at what flood zone you're in. Like for X, if it's unshaded, that is an area of minimal flood zone. Now, it's usually depicted on these maps as above the 500-year flood zone. So that means like there's a section where once every 500 years there could be flooding, and shaded X is above that. So it would be more than every 500 years once there might be some flooding. And basically what it means is there's ponding and local drainage areas. It doesn't necessarily mean you're gonna get like 1 inch to like a foot of water. It just means you may have some ponding or drainage problems, right? So let's say you live in this house and it's pondage or draining issues, right? You may have actually already been taken care of by the builder when this home was built. They may have known that. This may have been there since then. And they may have actually built your home up to where, you know, it's not just flat with the ground. There's like a couple feet buildup. And even if there was ponding and drainage problems, there's no risk of it coming in your home, right? So there's a lot of things that go into this. It's not just like, I'm in an X and I'm good, I'm in an A and it's bad and my home's gonna flood. But at least this gives you a place to start. So going over some of the definitions, you'll see like the A's are typically kind of the worst in terms of the most chance of flooding. Like AH here is an area with a 1% annual chance of shallow flooding, usually in the form of ponds with an average depth of 1 to 3 feet. These areas have a 26% chance of flooding over the life of a 30-year mortgage. 1% a year, but over 30 years, that's a 26% chance. Now, if this is just the corner edge of your property where nobody like walks or uses it very much, you can just build it up and you're probably fine, right? Depending on the neighbors and what else is going on. But if that's like your front porch or a bedroom or something, if your house isn't built up, you know, that could be like a really big problem, right? And so these higher numbers, you're probably going to be required to carry flood insurance on. Now, the flood insurance may vary depending on whether or not you have an elevation certificate. Also, that's something important to look at. An elevation certificate is where a surveyor is going to come out and, like in this example, right? They're going to look and they're going to say, hey, I think this property was built up already. There's all this great, you know, 3 to 4 feet buildup from the front porch. And there's no way, even with, you know, the water running right through the house area, that there would ever be a problem. It's just, it was already designed appropriately. So that elevation certificate from a surveyor, they're about like $600 to have. You just call a surveyor, have them come out. First, you want to find out if you already have one on the property, though. A realtor can help you with that. It would be registered usually with the city if it was utilized in something before. But if not, you can have them come out and it might reduce your flood insurance or even eradicate the need for flood insurance altogether. So that's pretty cool. But so if you're looking at this map, I mean, how many people know about this before you buy a house, right? Not many. I mean, I didn't know about this. I bought a house before I was in real estate a long time ago. So that was, you know, not something I knew. Luckily, I had a great realtor. I wasn't in a flood zone. He didn't have anything to tell me. I'm sure he would have told me if I was. But you can kind of see, if you look around, and this is just in Tucson, I'm sure your city would have similar things, especially if you're in a desert. But if you just look around, you can see it's kind of like where all the natural drainage areas were before the town was built up, right? Like this is a big river along here. Now, the river is now underground because we've used a lot of the water, and it's a dry wash, and then it fills with water when it rains and there's drainage, but it has all these tributaries from where the water flows when it rains, and all these floodways and all this drainage areas and everything from all over the city, and it gets into that wash when it rains. But like, how many people are thinking like, oh my gosh, is my street a drainage area? We talked a little bit last week about how, because the city was aware of a lot of this when things were built, but you know, some things shift over time. Some of the streets were actually built kind of in like a V shape. You know, I mean, you're not like driving down the street and it's like sideways, but it's very slight dip in the middle. So if there was drainage and raining, let's say, you know, it's draining and raining along here, and this is a natural drainage area, but they built a bunch of homes in here. They'll actually build the streets with a little dip in the middle, so the water tends to just pool in the middle of the street and run right to the wash. There's just, FEMA has already figured all this out for all of us, right? It's just finding the information. So you'll find as you look through this and check for your house for the different zones, and I'm going to have links to this in the video comments, that you will see, you know, it could be anything from, okay, there's a 0.2% chance I'll get 1 to 3 inches every year. And it's just the back half of my property when you check the map. So you're like, meh, I'm not that worried about it. I'm not going to need flood insurance. We'll just build up, you know. Or is it 1 inch to 1 foot and there's a 1% chance every year and it's right through my house and my house isn't built up, you know, concern. So good information. I'm going to have links to the map, which is national, so you can check for your area and you can look that up. And I'm going to have links to the definitions. Now, if you don't have a realtor and you're just currently in a home, I would say talk to your insurance agents. They are such good experts, your home insurance agents, on questions about this. If you are in the buying or selling process or considering purchasing, talk to your realtor. They'll be able to help you with tons of research and figure out what's going on and then get you to the insurance person if that's appropriate. So I hope this helps. Please tune in next session. I'm going to advertise it as an event. It'll be series 3 on floodplains, and we're going to have our expert Sue Doyle with Long Insurance, who's going to come and talk to us all about you know, how important this stuff is related to your house and liability and insurance costs, and is flood insurance like super prohibitive, and you know, how can you get rid of it, and you know, is this necessarily rule out a house purchase because you need flood insurance? I mean, what's the liability there? So she's going to come and give us so much great information next time. So please watch for that event, and please subscribe to the channel and you'll get notified when it's going to happen. You won't even have to watch for it. So thank you so much. I hope this was useful and helpful. Again, I am Heather McClaren, licensed realtor in Arizona. Please reach out to me for any questions you have about floodplains and purchasing in the desert. I will leave a link to contact me in the comments.